The end of the tour follows Rolling Stones reporter David Lipsky as he embarks on a 4-day interview with one of the most talked about authors of the time, David Foster Wallace. Now, the main reason I was very excited to see this film, despite knowing nothing about the author and what this film was really about, were the two performances, Jesse Eisenberg and Jason Segel. Jesse Eisenberg, of course, he's great in everything he does, in my opinion. I love him. And Jason Segel, he's known as a comedic actor, and he's taking on a more dramatic and serious role in this movie, so I really wanted to see how he did in this movie. And let me just say right off the bat, both of them, Jesse Eisenberg, he's great as usual, but Jason Segel, I mean, give this man an Oscar nomination. Already I'm saying he deserves it because he is so out of his element, but he doesn't feel that way at all. He totally transforms into this character and you believe that he is David Foster Wallace on screen. I never once saw Jason Segel in this movie. And it's hard to really say what this film is about, but when it really boils down to it, it's just two very smart, very well educated men sitting in a car talking, walking and talking, and sitting in a house and talking. That's basically the whole movie, is them two having very interesting and engaging conversations. And now, while that may come across as it could easily have been very boring and dull and it could have fallen flat at certain moments, but the script in this movie is one of the best I have seen in the last few years. Any type of movie like this with such a good script that keeps me as intense and as engaged as the next action movie, they're my favorite type of movies. The Social Network is one of those boyhood movies, that scripts that just have me sometimes literally on the edge of my seat when people are just talking. That really just hits the sweet spot for me, and this movie is definitely one of those. Can't say enough about the writing in this movie because the dialogue, it's quick and witty at times, but it also knows when to slow itself down, and when a certain scene you can tell is important, the dialogue really conveys that. And there's not a lot of, this film could be seen as just a lot of context, but really it's just very progressive and engaging conversations about just life and society and why we do what we do, loneliness, all these different things. It just keeps progressing forward without there really being, the plot is just, this author, it's the end of his tour. He has one more stop to make and then he's back, and David Lipsky wants to cover him because the book is incredible. The conversations they have, they just grab you, like literally sometimes I was just leaning back, grabbing, because when he says these things, David Foster Wallace, Jason Segel does a tremendous job. I was actually scared for Jesse Eisenberg as to how he was going to react because he's such a passionate and kind of mysterious man. You don't really know what his reaction will be to a certain thing, so just the dialogue really had me just engrossed for the whole running time. The end of the tour also explores what an actual interview is like. Now these days we don't really have 4 days that people interview someone. It's usually about 30 minutes to an hour, but David Lipsky, this is set back in the 90s, he went on a 4-day interview with this guy, and it's just so fascinating to see the reporter and the person he's reporting on, their sides of what an interview is supposed to be, because for the reporter he's supposed to get there, get the answers he needs, do his job, find out everything he needs, learn all his information. But for the guy being interviewed, especially someone like David Foster Wallace, it's terrifying because you don't want to reveal too much. You also don't want to seem like a jerk, like you're not, because you said yes for the interview. So it's a very complex balance, and they really point that out in this movie. And it's very fascinating to see how far David Lipsky was willing to go to learn what he had to, while also backpedaling because he wanted David Foster Wallace. They kind of had a friendship. Also, they were kind of rivals at some point in this movie. It's very well done with that, and pointing out the reporting and all the different sides of that. It was very interesting and very fun to watch. This isn't really a spoiler because it happened in real life. David Foster Wallace, he did commit suicide in September 2008, and so that's a very sad thing. It's a very delicate thing to handle in a movie like this because the way his character he comes across, you don't really know. He's kind of mysterious. You don't know if you really like him or not. And so they could have gone very south with this movie on how they handled that, and they really handled it just perfectly. I thought it was very respectful, and it really just tied in with the rest of the movie. It didn't feel like they were kind of weighed down by having to put that in. They just flowed right through it, and they didn't make a big deal out of it, so I thought very well done. So overall, the end of the tour had everything I'm looking for my type of movie that I enjoy. Fantastic performances, specifically from Jason Segel, who is Oscar worthy in my opinion. The script, one of the best of the last few years. Like I said, I love a script that can keep me on the edge of my seat and just locked into the screen the whole time, and this one did it. Very respectful in how they handled the real life situation that this film has, and just overall this is easily one of the best movies of the year, right up there with Mad Max, I'll say. And I'm going to give the end of the tour a 9.5 out of 10. Just absolutely loved it. It gives you a lot to think about after it's over. Very thought-provoking. and you'll just be thinking about this film for days on end. I know I have, and it's just a very good film. You should seek this one out. It's worth a watch.